episode of Hey Sister. Hey Sister.
Hi sister, how are you?
I'm doing good. I hopefully we got our little technical glitches worked out here because we were having a little technical glitch getting started. Sometimes that happens, folks. You know, the magic is real, but it takes some doing.
It does.
It definitely does. So, sister, what's going on? How you doing out there?
I'm doing well. Everything is fine. I'm still trying to find furniture, but I'm, getting over that whole. I'm taking your advice, and I've made dinner reservations for Thanksgiving because I can't manage all these projects at once. So nope,
right.
I'm not going to be worried about that.
Well, I am so excited about tonight's episode of Hey Sister because we have a very special guest. We always have a lot of fun when we have one of our favorite misters on with us, and we can say that Mr. Taylor is one of our favorite misters. Now, we hope he bring it tonight. See, he grinning from ear to ear, y'all. There's a story behind that grin, but we're not going to get into that right now. Right, sister? We ain't going to let him have it all right now, huh? Hey, Keisha, thank you for watching. She's joining us tonight. And tonight we're joined by Mr. Aulston Taylor. He's the Chief Development Officer for St. Augustine High School in New Orleans, Louisiana. And so if you're not from New Orleans and you're watching this, St. Aug is a school that has a very, very rich history, very, very rich tradition. And it is an all African-American male Catholic high school, and it's the only one in the nation. So it serves students in grades 8 through 12, and it is a phenomenal institution that puts out phenomenal men like the one that's joining us tonight, the young man who's joining us tonight. But one of the stats he wanted us to share was that over 100 graduates or 100 students went on from there to graduate from Ivy League schools. 40 NFL players have been produced in the last 55 years. And we're not going to talk about their big band tradition as well, because that's one of the things that they're known for. Now, my memory is traveling down there when Thibodeau High made the playoffs that basketball year.
Yes.
And we played St. Aug at Jesuit High School. I'm not going to tell y'all about the results, but it was.
Kerry Kittles was playing?
Huh?
Was Kerry Kittles on that team?
I think so, yes. That was like 1990.
91, 92.
Oh, it was 91, so it was the year I graduated. See, look, you already know. Yeah, I was on that team. But anyway.
You were on what the score was.
In the audience.
I was in the audience. I was kind of on that team. I was on the girls' team, but the boys were playing. And I'm not getting to all that. Anyway, hey, Jody, thank you for joining us tonight. Yeah. Oh, hey, Mr. Grinning from ear to ear. Jody, say hey. So we're super excited to have you tonight, Aulston. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here.
All right. Well, in typical Hey Sister fashion, we're going to start off tonight with a few hot topics. Now, all of us being Louisiana natives, we want to talk about voting and why voting still matters. So I have on my vote shirt, vote is a serious matter. Last night, now why on a Saturday? Because Louisiana's crazy. They do everything different than everybody else. But they had the gubernatorial race and other elections across the state that ended on last evening. And it was a strong push to reelect the Democratic governor, John Bel Edwards. And number 45 made a couple of trips to Louisiana in the last few weeks. Probably 2 in the last 10 days, I think it was, for the other candidates. So I don't know. What do you think about the turnout, ultimately the results of this said election?
You talking about me, or you want Mr. Aulston Taylor to go first?
Well, I'm gonna let you go first, sister, because see, he already told us we interlopers since we don't live there no more. We ain't got nothing to say about what happened in Louisiana politics. But my mama didn't live there.
I could jump in. Well, it was very close. Governor John Bell Edwards won by 40,000 votes, but the turnout was 1.5 million by way of the population across the state, and it was a nail biter until probably 25 minutes before they want to close everything out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great day because Governor John Bell Edwards has definitely did some substantial work in his first 4 years, turning around the state from a deficit into a surplus in significant numbers. And look, we got more progress to do in this city, and we need to continue to step up, step out, and be accounted for and heard. And I think the city of New Orleans definitely demonstrated that on yesterday when I think of New Orleans versus just the whole state of Louisiana, with 90% of the vote going toward Governor John Bell Edwards and 10% going to his opponent.
Okay. Well, thank you, New Orleans, for showing up and showing out. And we're going to need y'all to keep that energy up for 2020. I don't know, sister, what say you?
Well, I have to agree with Aulston here. Number one, I think that the budget and Louisiana financial woes are something that have been very detrimental specifically to higher education. Again, I went to Southern University, a public university, and so when the education budget gets severely cut, everybody else gets a small cut, and we're bleeding out. So I'm happy that there was an overwhelming push. And it's interesting though. I did see a message that was sent to me by one of my friends that supposedly emanated from a police officer that said something to the effect of, we can thank Southern University and the city of New Orleans because they paid for the bus, and thank the Negrocrats. So I thought that was very interesting, and it speaks volumes about the division that still exists in large parts of the state of Louisiana. But congrats to John Bell Edwards.
Well, I will say this. Congratulations, Governor. There's still work to do. And what we need to do is hold everyone accountable, whomever you elect. One of the things that I did see, and I know you talked about our parish that we generate from. So in Louisiana, we have parishes, not counties, folks. So the parish in which we hail, and the way the vote was very different. But I will say this, what I did notice is a lot, and I know you talk more blue across from. So in Louisiana, we have state, not counties. I'm hearing some feedback. Who am I getting feedback from?
That's from me. I'm trying to stop it, but unfortunately.
Oh, okay. I'm wondering. So what I did see is I did see more Democratic pickups in other places across the state. But even in pockets in those, I did in some of those strong red parishes. In some of those strong red parishes, there still were certain pockets of it in certain municipalities that had more blue. Come on, sister.
I'm trying to stop it. Okay, it was giving me.
Tina, what are you doing?
I'm sorry, because I'm trying to start the live watch party. And I was pressing to stop the volume to mute it, and it wouldn't stop. I'm sorry, guys.
All right. Well, y'all missed everything I said about that, so we're gonna move on to the next topic.
We heard
okay. In my watch party, we did get a comment for you, Mr. Taylor. Someone said they love the artwork that's in the background. So, is there something you want to say about that piece? Or
yeah. Well, it's from a local artist here in New Orleans by the name of David Harouni. He has a shop down in the French Quarter. And it's actually my very first piece of art that I purchased when I was living in New York. I bought it in 2011. And so it was kind of like one of my prized possessions based off of the value of what I purchased it for. So, yep, it's whatever you think it is when you look at many faces, right? So, see it?
Yeah. Love
So you
it.
can kind of make a decision of what it means to you. But to me, it means if it doesn't stand out, it doesn't stand a chance.
Mm.
And I take the guy with the red head, who you can see, and I think that he's obviously different than all the other faces. So if it doesn't stand out, it doesn't stand a chance.
Oh, I love that. That's one of the quotables for the night. Let me see, if it
Does
oh,
stand out. It doesn't. We are just messing things up.
doesn't stand a chance. I'm typing that in the comment because it's a perfect setup for our next agenda topic in Hot Topics tonight. And let's talk about that NFL workout with Mr. Colin Kaepernick yesterday. Was it a genuine? Was it a real offer? Or was it a PR stunt? Was it a PR stunt on the NFL side? Was it a PR stunt on Kaepernick's side? Because you talk about standing out. I think that's a perfect segue into this conversation. We're going to start with you on that one, Mr. Taylor.
Okay. So let's start by saying the shirt that he had on when he rolled up to the workout said Kunta Kinte.
Yes, sir.
All right. It's been 3 years since he's been employed by the National Football League. And at some point, you have to put yourself into a position to where if you really want the next thing for you and you want this particular opportunity, you know, the moments that you're creating for yourself beyond just trying to get employed by what they need you to be employed for, you got to take a step back and think about that. And while I think I know he has the ability to match up with any quarterback that's already employed by the National Football League, but I think the off the field antics and the off the field strategy that he has, it may be the case of why they're not interested in having that type of activity. But do I think he's a hell of a quarterback? And have we all seen him make an impact? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's done a great job. And could he play again right away? Yes, he could. But I just don't know if it's becoming a PR stunt or if he genuinely is still trying to get a job, or is he demonstrating that he is for black people, black power, and I'm going to demonstrate that you guys got to clean up your act around this country to show us that we're valued. I don't know which one it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna say one thing I do know for sure. I know the NFL cares nothing about the latter you just mentioned.
You don't.
so I don't know. For me, I'll get into mine at the end. Go ahead, sister. What you think?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think on both parts, there was some stunteration happening. And I think on both parts, maybe they were like, hey, but let's see what happens. If it works out for the best for both of us, then cool. I think there's a lot of distrust there between both parties. And they obviously both approached it as such. So it sounds like, according to Mr. Kaepernick, the NFL was requesting that he waive the right to sue them. And according to him, that's why. And then he wanted to move the workout to a different location. They are saying it was about filming and whether Nike was involved, not involved. I don't know. It sounds like a bunch of shenanigans. I think to Austin's point, my feelings are these. You know, this whole situation has created something very different for Colin Kaepernick. And sometimes when God closes one door, he opens others. And you got to walk through the open door and stop, focusing. One of my really good friends has always said, your rear view window is smaller than your windshield for a reason. He keeps looking in the rear view and trying to go back to something that was to prove that listen, anybody who can read knows the stats that he was put up, knows what abilities he has, and he's staying in shape. But I just think God is calling him to something greater, and I just wish he'd stop fighting that.
All right, we have one comment here that says, why would he wear that shirt? This is coming from our HR specialist. Why would he wear that shirt? Wasn't this like a job interview? Come on, bruh. I don't know. I see it a little differently, and I see that because you've taken the stand that you're taking, you gotta stay to continue with that stance. I can't see you operating any other way, especially when your agency, your personal agency is one of the things that is on the line here. How are you going to be able to consciously move, make decisions, make choices that are aligned with your overall mission and purpose about advancing social justice, and then you would give all of that up just for
But you're not giving it up. You're pressing pause, right?
Okay, that's a fair point. I got you, brother.
Let's say if I came onto your show tonight, all right, I'm here, I'm live, folks are reading my energy and seeing me. And if the shirt that I had on before we did a sound check said, women are losers, right? Instead of this showing what I'm representing right now, what would your entire population of followers say? They'd be like, who is he and why is he on your show?
Right.
Right? It's the same context of him going to this job interview, as Jody said, which it is, and you're going to go out there to perform. You don't always have to go in there with your whole vision of everything that you're trying to do. Press pause, come back to it after you're done.
Okay, so in the spirit of the painting behind you, sometimes you got to put on the other face or other mask.
Sometimes you got to blend in a little bit better.
Ooh, well. All right then. Well, I would love to hear y'all comments. All right. Jody is amening you. She is amening you tonight. So this is a perfect actually lead into then our next conversation about your own journey, Mr. Taylor. And we want to talk about your own journey in living your passion and your purpose. So you have, I met you 2007, 2008.
2007.
Was it 6 or 7? When we were in Harlem, didn't you meet him when we went to that?
But I think we went to see The Color Purple, and then we ended up in the Harlem Parade, and we was campaigning for Barack, and you was giving us all this stuff. It was like, wait, you gave us a job, and we just rolled up on the scene. What's up, brother? Gave us a job. Shout out to my girl Raquel. I know you out there. She remembers. He put us to work.
Look at one of my parents' moms on. Hey, Alexis. Of course, she disagreed with me with Colin Kaepernick, but that's fine.
That's all right. Well, we can circle back to that part of the conversation. But, so I met you there. I think you were working with Christina. You guys were in the same organization at that time, working in ESPN. And so you've done some back and forth. Tell us a little bit about your journey. You've worked in the corporate, you've worked in entertainment sectors, and now you are the Chief Development Officer at your alma mater, St. Augustine High School.
Say it this way. Say the Chief Development Officer for 530 African-American men.
Oh, all right.
I like that better.
And if y'all don't know what development means, if you go to any organization, development means he the money man. He out there trying to get that money. Honey. Am I right?
Indeed.
So tell us about your journey to living your purpose and your passion.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll add context in this with Christina because this kind of brings everything full circle of how we're here today. So fresh out of college and undergrad from Texas Southern University, I moved to New York.
HBCU for life.
Absolutely. Would have wore that shirt if I didn't wear this one. I got to New York November 16, 2003. And my first job was at ESPN as a sales assistant in our national ad sales and sponsorship division. And after 3 years of being in national ad sales, I earned a promotion into the affiliate sales and marketing division where Christina was working in that division. And so that was April of 2006. And so Christina and I met during that time. and she was from Thibodeau. I was from New Orleans. We had a mutual friend in between, Kim Wilson, who looks like she just joined, and Kim did a stint of working in New Orleans as well. So the three of us kind of built this relationship of like, I got your back, you got mine. We're gonna do this thing and we're gonna have fun. And so from there, the relationships that we built, um, it was always more than just about work. It was like, what's your vision for your life? What's your goals? What you want to do? And a testament to Christina and I, we always were going back and forth about when you gonna go home? Who gonna go home first? And so in the midst of that, it put me in the mindset of wanting to get involved in New Orleans in some capacity, especially for our youth. And so in that year, I realized how many resources I had at my fingertips, and I started to then give my time and energy and effort toward the city of New Orleans by way of my high school, St. Augustine. And so the very first influential execution that happened was by way of our work, where we were trying to launch a network by the name of ESPNU. And the local market of New Orleans had no interest, which was Cox Cable. They had no interest in wanting to launch because it would have been more, it would have been an additional expenditure to them back to ESPN and Disney. So we had to put pressure on them. And so we used the pressure of saying, okay, what matters most in the city of New Orleans when it comes to sports? High school sports, more so than college or pros when it comes to ESPNU, which is ESPN University. So we used the high school, which was my high school, St. Aug, and we programmed a game against McDonald 35, which is another strong African-American school for the youth here in New Orleans. And the pressure that came from that game drove the local cable operator to say, okay, we're going to flip the switch and we're going to put this game on TV, and we're going to actually continue to have this as a channel to carry locally in New Orleans. So once we did that, it kind of demonstrated to me like, oh, wow, I actually can use my platform here in New York to benefit the city of New Orleans. Long story short, almost 30,000 fans came out to the game. The schools made a decent amount of money at the gate. The publicity for both of the teams was great. And I kind of built my bridge of giving back off of that platform, and I started to do more, right? Okay. And over time, from 2007 on out, I built a relationship with a gentleman by the name of Father Matthew O'Rourke, who was the very first principal of St. Augustine High School in 1951. Now, in 51, he was 32. In 2007, he was 89. But I met him at the age of 89 when he was retired, living in Baltimore, and I would go visit him. And from the time of me meeting him up until where we are today, he is truly the reason, the passion, the purpose of what made me decide to come back home to New Orleans and do the role that I'm in now, to be the Chief Development Officer for 530 African-American boys. A lot of people look at it and think that, oh, it's something that I cared about St. Aug. Nah, it's really because this particular priest, who was the founding father of St. Aug, of one of them, he poured into me in a way that showed me that the school was important, his vision was important, and the culture that he created was even more important. And our relationship and the bond that we created until his dying day, I said I was going to keep him alive by way of my work and my efforts for the school. So live on Hey Sister for the first time, I'm sharing in a way with the public of what truly brought me back home to start this new role, because this is not the first time that I've worked at the school. But this is the real reason that I decided to come back, because as much as I've given efforts to want to be involved with St. Aug, Father O'Rourke was always at the forefront of that energy, because I saw his passion for the school when I met him at 89. And when his last breath, when he was 93, of what he shared with me, it demonstrated to me that this is what he cared about. He cared about that school more than anything. And so for me, I said, okay, I found my new passion and purpose at 2007. How do I work that into all the things that I'm doing? And how do I eventually become a change agent in the community versus just putting change in the school by way of my own money and my influence?
I love that. I love that. Talking about being the change agent. You have one of your fellow Purple Knights, Blair, one of our other favorite misters.
That's
He
my
is,
guy.
yes, he's watching. I don't know where you at in the world, Blair, but mwah, we love you. Thanks for watching tonight.
Blair's
Oh.
Wait, hey, Austin, what you do, man? Man, what did he do? Austin. Who and me must never part, my da. Oh, my brother, he's back in. He back in.
Okay.
Brother, he coming up.
So
there we go.
You hit the wrong button.
Who did that? Christina?
You.
I didn't press anything.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe your Wi-Fi dropped out for a second. It happens in the background. Sometimes it happens.
I am in New Orleans.
Yes. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, we you know, I love hearing you talk about that journey and the passion, because one of the things that we talk about, I serve on the National Alumni Association with Xavier University, and one of the things we talk about is time, talent, and treasure. You know, how do we give back our time, talent, and treasure?
I feel like you got it from me, and you just didn't even point out the fact that I'm also on Southern.
Can you let me get there, please, sister? Can you let me get there?
We love Xavier, but
can we get there? I've talked about Xavier because Xavier, we are the only Black Catholic university in the Western Hemisphere. So it ties to St. Augustine because there's many St. Augustine alums who also end up at Xavier. But let's talk about sister. Why is she doing me like this, y'all? But yeah, so both Christina and I are very involved with our alumni. We both chartered alumni chapters in our respective cities because we were also asking ourselves that question about how could we do more? How can we be more? How can we give more back to those institutions that helped shape us and mold us and gave us so much? And she talked about time, talent, and treasure. We talked about that on a Hey Sister episode with alumni relations, the vice president from Xavier, Kimberly Reese. And that's been about a year ago. We had that conversation. And so it's kind of a full circle moment because, you know, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I think we all have been given a lot in how can we, outside of just moving back home, Mr. Taylor, and really pouring ourselves into that, what are some other ways that folks can really give back to these beautiful institutions who shaped us?
That's for you?
No, that's for you, sir.
Come back only because it just give me the small last bit. I heard the majority, but I didn't hear the last part of the question.
So the last part of the question was, what are some of the other things we can do, you know, to give back? What are some of the other things we can do to give back?
So I've been in this role for 10 months, and the biggest challenge that I see is that we all have this notion that you have to be rich and wealthy to give back, and it's so far from the truth. And as an individual, if there was something to share with someone, you know, think about when you go home in a house that you may have lived in that was passed on to someone, and you see the same faucet that is pouring out the water. If you go into the kitchen and the same chairs, but there's one leg is broken on that chair, and the family found a way to put duct tape on it, and you sit in it, and you complain, right? Well, instead of complaining, think about that was your home at one point. It's still your home because somebody who lives there is benefiting from what you had as a foundation. And then think about, what does it cost to change out an old faucet? It may cost $120. How much does it cost to get a brand new chair? It may cost $50. So if you were an alum and you alone just did $20 a month by way of direct deposit onto your credit card, that $240 that will be given to that particular home in 1 year will cover both that faucet and that leg of that chair. And you will be much different when you go home and see that home is well taken care of. So I use that analogy because our fundings from August 1st until now, we're nearly reaching $1 million in fundraising, right? And that sounds great. But then when I tell you 49% of that funding have come from foundations, 38% have come from friends of the school, and then I share that only 11% have come from alumni, and you're sitting there saying, well, wow, how does it only that 11% has come from the school, right? But that's because of a lot of guys. And when I think of the whole population as black people, our minds is thinking that when I make it, I'm going to give back. And it's like, no, you can sign up for $100 a month to your place that you love and you call home. And that $1,200, you're not going to miss it. You're not going to miss that $1,200 in 1 year, right? And so a lot of people will think that, well, it's not going to the right place the way I want it to go. Well, how do you know? Do you go and check in on it? Do you realize that, for the lights to stay on at the school that costs? Do you know that when it gets cold, the kids need warm and they need to have heat? So, a lot of things that people have in their minds, I just think we need to start with changing our minds first before we even act on doing anything. The mind is a powerful thing, and I think, most folks challenge themselves awkwardly at times to say, let me go make $1 million and let me give back 200,000. No, it shouldn't be that. You can start now. You can start with literally $50 a month, $10 a month. I give you the best practice that I've seen. When I started the job February 1st, there was a letter that came in the mail from a small town in California from a donor. In that letter, when I opened it up, my person on my team said, oh, this guy gives every month. He gives $5 a month. The last 2 years, he went from $3 to $5 a month, but he's been giving since 2006. Okay? In the envelope that he handwrites every month, he sends a $5 bill with a little write-up. In this particular one that I opened up in February, it said, I fell on hard times. My daughter, who lived in New Orleans, can no longer take care of herself. She's moving here to California to live with me. Due to that, I'm going to have to cut back on the different places that I give funding to every month. FYI, this does not pertain to you, St. Augustine High School. You will continue to receive your $5 every month because what you are doing is making a difference. And I see the men coming out of the school that are taking up leadership roles. And so while it might be $5 a month, $60 a year, but this gentleman has been consistent and he's been a deliverer from 2007 to now of $5 a month. And for him, he's not even a graduate, right? For him, he sees the importance of a home that's for young African-American men to continue to learn, be nurtured, and become leaders. And so I use him as an example because while it's $5, it still means a lot to me and it means a lot to our school because he showed consistency and he understands what we're turning out every year. So think of it that way in a sense of all of us who have places that are near and dear to our heart. It always doesn't have to be about money, but it has to be about something. And if it's time, if it's your brain, if it's your resources, how do you step into it and give back? Even though it may not be part of your calling, you got to use your footsteps to make change and to see things that you want to see different in a place that you call home.
I love that. That's a beautiful analogy. Great analogy. Even Kim Wilson says, okay, analogy, that house analogy was deep because we all could see it. Because we all culturally know that home. Very,
Yeah.
very, very. We know that home. We see that home. Sister, what questions do you have about this journey?
Well, I wanted Mr. Taylor. So one of the things that you briefly talked about, that you had been at St. Aul previously. And I just wanted you to touch on that, because I think it's important for people to realize, again, this is overall in health and well-being. And to me, that embodies the physical, the mental, emotional, all of that. But how did you went back before, and then you went back to New York, and then you came back. So talk about that and how you had to know. It was it the right time for you? It wasn't the right time at that time, but how
Yep.
it became a full circle moment.
Yep, definitely. And I think that chapter is very, very important. Like I mentioned, Father O'Rourke was the catalyst for me to continue this wave of energy for St. Aug. And so in the beginning, he was the ultimate linchpin for me to say, okay, I've done 4 years at ESPN. I've loved what I've done here. I've built some good relationships. People believe in me and they trust me. I'm going to go home to New Orleans. I'm going to do this great work for the school. I'm going to open up the school to new relationships with people that's going to give. We're going to be great. And I failed. I came home. It was January of 2008. And when I got to the school, I wanted to fix everything in a matter of 5 days. And I came in with the New York energy, the New York swag, we gonna change the world quickly. And I quickly alienated myself from a tremendous amount of the staff. I was setting up meetings to meet with folks, and in their mind, they thought I was trying to do their job, whereas I was simply trying to gain facts and get the understanding of where the school was and where it was trying to go. But to them, they thought I was trying to do their role. And so I realized quickly within 30 days, I was like, uh-oh, I have made some serious missteps, right? And so I ultimately stayed for 7 months inside the role at the time, which was vice president of advancement. Same department that I'm in now. Just now I'm at a level where I run the entire department versus that I was reporting to two people. But in that moment in time, I failed. I failed without a doubt. I failed miserably, and I failed because my emotions was in front of my substance and my skill set. I came to work every day feeling like I had to make a difference or the school would close. I came to work thinking that everybody's going to be on my side to do the job that I'm asking them to do, and they weren't. So after 7 months of being on the job, I decided that, you know what, I'm gonna remove myself. So I resigned, and it was one of the hardest decisions I ever made to do, because I didn't feel like I quit a job. I feel like I quit on a lot of young men, and I quit on a lot of young men that looked up to me. And when they saw me at the school every day, they felt that I was part of that inspiration package. And so when that package was removed, you know, I didn't examine what that did to those young men. However, I did get a dose of it, because after I resigned, I was asked to run a state senator campaign with a friend of mine that ran from October through December. And on the trail of us knocking on almost 16,000 doors as his campaign manager, I knocked on a specific door. And when it opened up, it was an 11th grader who was at St. Aug. And literally the first thing he said was, "Mr. Taylor, why'd you quit?" I was like, oh, Lord. I'm responding to this. And so, I gave him the truth, and I said, when you're inside of a company, and I related the school to a company, and that things, turning against you, and you may have came in the rush and you didn't take your time and you didn't have patience, you can fail. And I said, I failed. And I said, the things that I wanted to do, I failed. And his response was that, no, you weren't. Like, we were happy seeing you every day, and you just being there every day made us felt like the school was going forward and that we knew that we were in good hands. And I was like, I understand. I said, but ultimately I failed. And I said, but I'm never going to give up, and I will be back. And so I continued to do my giving through the school from 2009. From 2009 to 2019, before I came back, I continued to be involved with the school. I joined the development committee. So I stayed the beat, right? I never gave up. And then in 2012, I decided to go for the president's job at the school because the role had came available. And when I went for the president's job in 2012, I went all in. And I would say, I know I'm built for this. I'm going to give this my all. And I didn't get the job. Right. And then when I didn't get the job, I said, you know what? This is bigger than just a job, right? This is a passion of mine. So even though I didn't get the job, I can continue to still do my part from afar. So I had built a 5-year plan for that interview that I didn't when I didn't get the job. And so as a volunteer living back in New York, I said, okay, I can still do this plan. I'll just do it as a volunteer and I won't be there every day. And so by the time I returned in February of 2019, this year, I had worked about 75% of that plan as a volunteer of what I had set up in 2012. So over a 5 to 7 year period, I still did the things that I was looking to do. I helped them create athletic partnerships for the school, to defray costs on expenses and operations. I created a scholarship in my name that over the past 7 years have helped support 14 young men. And that scholarship is still in existence today, thanks to a lot of my good friends, you guys who give to my scholarship every year. And so because of that, I knew when the time for me to leave BET and come home that it was a no-brainer. And I kind of want to share what happened then. So the year was 2018. I had a really awesome year in ad sales at BET in New York. And we had a retreat that was down at my president's home in Miami, Florida. And that night at the retreat, it was September 29th. I got awarded Salesperson of the Year for new business. And when I received the award, I asked to take a picture with my executive vice president and my president. And someone took the picture. And then when they gave me my phone back, I looked at the photo and I said, it's time for me to go. Because the picture shared with me that I've done everything that I came here to do. It's time for me to take away from this chapter that it's time to move on versus to move up. And so that night I declared to myself that I was going to find a way to get back to St. Aug in a very, very visible way where I can make impact. And so from September 29th, that night, till almost Christmas, I worked on how this could all come together and become a real thing. And so it did. And I started the job February 1st as Chief Development Officer. And I'm proud to say it's the greatest thing that I ever did. And, for you guys now, you realize it's the third time around at the school versus this just being a job for me. And so because of it, it kind of told me that, you know what, this is a job where I don't care if somebody claps for me. I don't care if somebody smiles and tells me I did a good job. I don't care if I get any awards. I don't care if somebody pats me on the back. I don't care if somebody gives me acknowledgement, because I know ultimately that this is a passion and a purpose that came through me by way of Faldo Rook. And so because of it, I don't need accolades for what I'm doing, because ultimately I know that this is a part of my passion and purpose because of an experience that I've had.
Thank you for sharing that. We have a lot of comments about your honesty. And so we got a thanks for the transparency, honesty. Love it. Absolutely. We have another one. It wasn't the time. So we had that a couple times. It wasn't quite the time. And And we have another one that says hashtag blessed. And I love all of those comments. And I really love the journey, because I think what people often, think of the destination, right? So they see you here at this destination. Oh, you've arrived. Oh, you've done this. Oh, you got that award. Oh, you were at BET. Oh, you was at ESPN. As if certain destinations are this arriving.
Right.
But it's really more about the journey. And I love love the journey that you went on, and that you also yielded to the passion and purpose that was emanating from you through Father O'Rourke, but that really was in you, and that because I've been in that place where you're conflicted.
Yeah.
Where you're
Yep.
sitting there conflicted. So let's talk a little bit about that. And we're going to tie this into the whole conversation about men's health, especially Black men's health. Because as Black women also in corporate settings, we know that our mental, emotional, spiritual health are sometimes on the line, because we're trying to get to certain destinations, and they may not even be the path that we're supposed to be on, or where we're supposed to end up.
Mm-hmm.
But we press on, because that's what we told to do, right? You got to work hard, got to get that good job, got to do this, do that, whatever. But we press on. But we do see there's a crisis in our community for mental, emotional health as well as physical. So let's talk about, how do you take care of yourself? How did you keep yourself whole, even when you were told no, and your confidence probably took a little hit? Yeah. How do you take care of yourself?
I run.
Okay.
I love running, and running it's my outlet. I'm gonna show you how much I love running. Hold on. I want you to see this. This has been since January.
Wait, we can't see.
We can't see. What is that?
300.3 miles. Amen. That's
all
awesome.
right.
Yeah.
So I ran 311 miles across 96 runs.
You have a 10-minute mile? Is that what I saw?
That was 311.3 miles.
No, but how many? I thought it said 10-minute miles, like 10 minutes per mile.
On average, 311, it's been 10 minutes. Yeah, but it's been across 96 runs.
Nice. So we pressed on. Mm-hmm.
So the importance of that is when I'm happy, I go run. When I got a lot on my mind, I go run. When I've just experienced defeat, I go run.
Mm-hmm.
On those journeys of running, I'm recharging, right? And I'm also finding the moments of, why did this happen? Okay, what is the next steps for me after this? How do I put it behind me, or how do I keep it in front of me to make sure that I finally get to it? And so running has always been that for me since I was a kid. And look, I'll be the first to admit, when you hear that, I show you the numbers. People say, "Oh my God, he's in great shape. He's awesome. He's fit." Well, no, I have a history of challenge with cholesterol, right? And so over the last 5 years, I've taken a true conscious effort to go to the doctor 4 times a year versus 2 times a year. In the past it was always twice a year. Now I've ramped it up to 4, because like running, I always want to beat a certain time. And now my cholesterol meter, I always want to bring that number down, right? And I want to measure everything that I'm doing in regards to my cholesterol, because what you measure gets done. I mean, that's a real thing. And so I got a note from my doctor recently who basically said, keep up the good work. Cholesterol went down, and he showed me the numbers. So for me, that's winning, right? Because ultimately, I know that cholesterol has been a challenge in our family. But for me, it's like, okay, if I want to be effective on this mission that I have at the school for the boys, I got to take care of myself before I can take care of them. And before I can step into having a family, I got to take care of myself before I can take care of that family unit. So it's a real thing. And as I mentioned to you guys earlier before we went live, this year I have had the unfortunate pleasure of seeing the statistics and me having to go into the database and check deceased on alums of ours who have passed. And since August 1st of 2018, there's been 47 graduates who have passed away. Mm-hmm. And so 50% of them are 50 or under the age of 50. And so, every time I go into the system that for our database management and I click a person named deceased, it's like, I'm like, I need to go check my cholesterol every single time, because for me, it's like, wow, this guy was 44, he was 45, he was 36, he was 51, he was 60. And it's like, that's tough for me to see every day, right? And it's kind of like a person in a job that has, a mortuary. Can you imagine what they're seeing constantly? Mm-hmm. So for me, I realized that I'm in a population of Black men. And the folks that I'm clicking deceased on, they're one gender, they're one race. And if I don't do anything with that data, then I'm a part of the problem as well, because I need to tell someone what I'm seeing that can actually help and make a difference. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to find a way to bring health awareness to the young men at the school. And if there's a way for us to start incorporate that into our curriculum, that will have them leaving the school at the age of 17, 18, or 19 with a more serious thought process about taking care of their health so that they can be here for their families in the long haul.
And so you mentioned, running for all the purposes that you run, which I was very impressed with the 10-minute mile. That's why I was like, oh, wow. Because
he running for real running. Yeah, running is not my ministry. Yes. Amen. Hallelujah.
Yes, you're not jogging like the LA Marathon, which is
you got to come around when you come to the city.
Yeah. But anyway, I can walk really briskly. But no, I was going to say, so that's awesome that you do that running and have that for relief. But do you do anything for like your mental health? Because I'm assuming that being in the position that you're in, being around young men, they're bringing a lot to school every day. And they want to talk to somebody like you. Do you do counseling or meditation or yoga? Like, do you do anything else for your mental health other than work?
I'm negligent. I do need to adopt a plan in regards to that. I have not. Obviously, I go and get massages and I push
out. You said obviously, like a lot of Black men ain't saying they obviously getting massages. Okay. Obviously.
We need to be.
Holla if you hear me.
It helps. It really helps. My routine of the running and then the massages and that area is sound. That's legit. But I do need someone or some type of structure around how do I release other things that take place, because it is a lot. Because my role is known as being the money man, like you mentioned earlier. I get sought after by a ton of people, a ton. And while there's a lot of families that need support, I have to take on the burden of kind of telling them no at times, that or I'm not the person that's going to issue out funding. I'm the person that go out and secure it, and then it goes through a process. And so most families don't want to hear that. All they care about is the now, and is what can you do for me? And so that does weigh heavy on my shoulders at times, because this job does come with a tremendous amount of pressure. But again, I push that out, and I tend to not want to bring that home at all, because then I'm working for the school 24 hours versus taking care of myself and pushing that out and then getting prepared for the next day. So I do need to adopt a plan. If you have any recommendations, we'd love to hear them.
Okay.
Well, I can definitely recommend some apps for you for that part. And you can also then track how much time that you're spending in that meditation, as well as, there's some good folks you can talk to as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'll work on that for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, then. Sister, what other questions do you have as we get ready to wrap it up?
I know we only have like 4 minutes left. This has been a quick conversation. Well, I did reference you, like I said earlier, in our last conversation, because one of the things that you told me a long time ago, or asked me a long time ago, that stuck with me was, did I want to be a big fish in a small pond, or a small fish in a big pond? And that has always been something that stuck with me. So I'm going to ask you, do you consider yourself a big fish in a small pond, or a small fish in a big pond?
You know, I think it's really how you look at it. New Orleans is significantly smaller than New York City. But the mission that I'm on at St. Aug is bigger than New Orleans, right? Because it's involving young black men, and the world sees young black men as either they're a doctor or they're in jail. And so while my role is local here in New Orleans, I'm trying to project the story of 530 African American men that are learning, nurturing, maturing from 7:20 in the morning to 2:45 in the evening, and then from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock, then extracurricular. I'm trying to share that narrative with the world to say, can come and join us and put more investment into us versus just here inside of New Orleans, right? I can go to 5,000 people here in New Orleans and ask them for $1,000 check, and I'm sure I'll probably get it. But it's different when I want to go to 5,000 people around the world or 10,000 people around the world and tell this story. So I'm really a small fish at a school that represents a bigger, greater, bigger purpose for black men. So my physical place of my zip code of where I am, could I potentially be a big fish in a small pond? Yeah, but honestly, I'm a very small fish that's trying to get this mission into a bigger, bigger, bigger place and atmosphere, because the story needs to be told around the world. Locally, of course, but then around the world as well, to get and attract more investors to want to give more to the school. And so because of it, I'm still small.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think you're a big you're a big fish, and I think you're doing awesome things. And I think that, I wrote the Black History. Shout out to you. I think that was last year. You were one of the first people that I thought of, because I think the work that you're doing is tremendous. And I'm always very proud of my people in general, but I'm especially proud of you for following your passion and being steadfast in the work that you're doing. So I applaud you, sir.
Well, look, before we close out, I want to show you all this letter. So I kept saying his name, Fardo Rook. So Fardo Rook wrote me a letter January 27, 2008. And this was the first stint when I was at the school as the vice president. And when he wrote me this letter, he literally laid out his kind of strategy and plan of action for me to be successful. And it's been 11 years and I still carry this letter inside my bag that I take to work every day. But I want to read a part of it on here that what he shared. And he said, Aulston, you have a very responsible job, one in which your success will mean much for the future of St. Aug. You have been blessed with many gifts which will help you to succeed in outstanding fashion. Father Doyle, who was the president at the time, has been most successful as a fundraiser. He will be a great source of help to you. He knows the name of godly number of businessmen in New Orleans and has had good contacts elsewhere. Look to him for support and advice. You cannot do this alone. Work together with Father Raphael as he's the principal. One of your jobs will be to educate senior classes to their responsibility of supporting St. Aug in the future. They won't be able to do too much for a while, but you have to plant the seeds of loyalty and the attitude of give back to St. Aug. You are in my prayers as you begin your job. If you ever need advice and encouragement, drop by for a visit. You can stay here if you wish. The Lord will be with you. Now, I share that because he passed in um, May of 2012. But when he was on his dying bed, there was a request from him to me to have me come down to come and see him while he was in hospice. And so when I went down there, I had the 5 year plan with me in my bag that was um, that was built for me to go into the interview in 2012. And I went for the president's job. And so when I went to see him, I didn't want to take the deck out of the bag because I just wanted to really just come see him. So I went over to him and I leaned in and his heart was pounding. He was hooked up to an oxygen tank, mask all on his face. And he had his sister-in-law playing a guitar in a corner just to soothe his mind and his spirit and his energy. And he pulled me close and he said, come in. He said, where's your plan? And so I looked at him and I said, I'm not here for that, Father. And he goes, come here. He goes, give me the plan. So, of course, I wasn't going to not disobey him at the moment. So I went in the bag. I went in my bag and I grabbed that plan out of it and I gave it to him. And he put it on his chest. He put his hand on top of it and he grabbed my hand. He put my hand on top of his. And he said, Aulston, my time is up. I've done a great job. I've done God's will. I've helped a lot of people. It's time for me to go home. And I'm happy to go to heaven. He goes, St. Aug is going to be fine. And you're going to be fine. He goes, I'm going to steer your hand from heaven. And I'll make sure that the work that you have in this plan gets done by way of looking out for you and looking after you from above. He says, so go do the work, have fun, and know that I'm with you. And so that was 2012. And honestly, that was the catalyst for me to say, okay, at some point I'm going to launch this mission. And I'm happy to say we're 10 months in the mission, right? And so while we're in these 10 months, you know, I've told this to my boss. I've told this to the community of people that I come in contact with. I'm on a 5-year mission, right? I'm not at St. Aug to occupy this job for the next 20, 30 years. I'm on a full-fledged 5-year mission to knock this work out, get it done, put the school in a completely better place, and then I'll find the next person to take my role and then let them carry that torch and keep it going. And then Father Rook will work through that young man or that young lady to keep our school to where it needs to be and be the crown jewel of New Orleans. So it's bigger than a job. It is a mission. And I can't let him down. And so I'm in it to win it. And in my 5 years of doing this work, I'm excited. If I get the work done in 3 years, then obviously he gave me an extra boost and I'll be done in 3 years. But there is a legitimate plan that I'm working through that I'll know when my time is done and for me to move on to the next chapter of my career.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. So you got to plan your work and work your plan, people. You can see up on the screen here, and I put it in the comment section. If you want to learn more about Aulston's mission, as well as the mission of St. Augustine High School, go to their website, www.staugnola.org. You can give there as well. As he said, those modest gifts add up. So whether it's to fix that faucet or to replace that chair, y'all heard the house analogy, whatever it is to do, it doesn't have to be a lot, but it's about the consistent gift, the sowing seeds. And I think for me, this is the big thing, sharing the narrative of 530 African-American men. We have to share the narrative. We have to change the narrative of who we are and whose we are and what we know we are from what is currently dominating our media, our airwaves, and all the things that we consume today. And I thank you for picking up that mantle and having that plan and being on your mission. So kudos to you, sir.
Well, look, I greatly appreciate you guys for creating this platform. You know, I've always told your sister that she needed to have some type of platform because, you know, we would go back and forth on emails. We worked at ESPN. It would take me like 6 days to finish her email because she loves to write and loves to share her thoughts. So creating this platform was so perfect. But no, I'm excited you guys had me on. You know, obviously I'm here to support you in any way I can. If that means you want me to share it beyond just today, which I did earlier, I'm happy to do that. If there's any recruitment that you guys want for folks to come on that has a specific expertise in a topic, I'm happy to do that. And thank you. Look, I mean, y'all doing great work and y'all putting it out there for people to understand other folks' energy, and you're giving them the model of go from imagination to actually execution. So thank y'all for what y'all doing.
Well, we appreciate that so much. Well, everyone, if you would like, follow, and share Hey Sister, especially share that website for St. Augustine High School, because I know the quality and the caliber of the young men who they are producing and who are sharing their gifts with the world, like Mr. Taylor, and we want more of them. And so with that being said, we're signing off for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Good night.
Bye. Peace.